All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I am V. Ravi Kumar and with me is Subhadra Ramachandran. The headlines. Nation pays tribute to war heroes on Kargil Vijay Divas today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to share his thoughts in Mann Ki Baat program at 11 this morning. Centre allocates additional 40,000 crore rupees under MG Narega in view of COVID-19 pandemic. India announces $400 million currency swap for Sri Lanka. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says South China Sea is not Beijing's maritime empire. And Haryana to host 4th Khelo India Youth Games. Kargil Vijay Divas is being celebrated across the country today. The nation is remembering its war heroes and paying tributes to martyrs on Kargil Vijay Divas. The day marks the victory of Indian Armed Forces in Operation Vijay in 1999 when they evicted the infiltrators backed by Pakistani army from high outposts in Kargil sector. The Kargil war was fought for more than 60 days and ended with India regaining control of all the previously held territory. The victory of Tiger Hill was one of the crucial achievements in the 60-day-long conflict. Indian soldiers fought the Kargil war under the toughest conditions on difficult terrain at an altitude of 18,000 feet. In a tweet, Indian Army said, Operation Vijay is a saga of courage, valor and sacrifice of brave soldiers of the Indian Army. It said 26 July will be remembered for the determination and daring leadership and raw courage of our soldiers.
सरहद की रक्षा की खातिर अड़े रहे वो सीना तान शहीद हुए जो वीर सेनानी अजर अमर उनका बलिदान
कारगिल दिवस पर सेना के वीर शहीद सेनानियों को देश का शत शत नमन.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu today paid tribute to the martyred heroes of the Kargil war who sacrificed their lives to safeguard the sovereignty and integrity of the country on the occasion of Kargil Vijay Divas. In a tweet, Mr. Naidu said, the grateful nation will always remember their patriotism and valor. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will pay tribute to the fallen soldiers who fought valiantly during Kargil war at National War Memorial this morning. In Ladakh, General Officer Commanding of Fire and Fury Corps, Lieutenant General Harinder Singh will lay a wreath and pay homage to the martyrs at Dras War Memorial in Kargil. More from our correspondent.
India is celebrating 21st anniversary of Kargil Vijay Divas today. At 9 a.m., the chief guest and senior army officials will lay wreath and pay homage to martyrs at Dras War Memorial in Kargil, Ladakh. Dras War Memorial has been decorated for the celebrations of 21st year of victory in 1999 Kargil War. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, the celebrations this year are scaled down in magnanimity. Usually, the celebrations run for 3 days starting from 24th July have been limited to a single day. However, several events relating to Kargil Vijay Divas annually have already been cancelled due to the pandemic in the region. This year, only wreath-laying ceremony will take place at Dras War Memorial. With Anayat Ali, Ramesh Chandra for All India Radio News from Dras, Kargil.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will share his thoughts with the people in the country and abroad in the Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio at 11 this morning. It will be the 67th episode of the monthly radio program. It will be broadcast on the entire network of AIR and Doordarshan and also on AIR News website www.newsonair.com and News on Air mobile app. It will also be streamed live on YouTube channels of AIR, DD News, PMO and Information and Broadcasting Ministry. AIR will broadcast the program in regional languages immediately after the Hindi broadcast. The regional language versions will be repeated at 8 in the evening. Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday reviewed the implementation of Pradhan Mantri Street Vendors Atmanirbhar Nidhi PM Swanidhi scheme of Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. During the meeting, it was informed that over 2.6 lakh applications have been received, over 64,000 have been sanctioned and over 5,500 have been disbursed. The Prime Minister expressed satisfaction on the use of end-to-end IT solution through a web portal and mobile app for administration of the scheme to ensure transparency, accountability and speed. while noting that the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs is working on a complete IT solution, including mobile application for seamless implementation of the scheme. Mr. Modi said that the scheme design should incentivize the use of end-to-end digital transactions by the street vendors. It should cover the entire gamut of their business, from procurement of raw material to collection of sale proceeds, and appropriate incentives and training should be conducted for this purpose. He said the use of digital payments would also help build a credit profile for the street vendors, helping them in future financial needs. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the scheme should not be seen just from the perspective of extending loans to street vendors, but also as a part of an outreach to the street vendors for their holistic development and economic upliftment. The government has launched PM Swanidhi scheme to facilitate collateral-free working capital loan up to 10,000 rupees of 1-year tenure to about 50 lakh street vendors to resume their businesses. Railway Minister Piyush Goyal has reviewed the steps to promote Make in India products in procurement process of Indian Railways. During the meeting, Mr. Goyal urged to take measures to generate confidence in industry of corruption-free and transparent procurement environment on Indian Railways. He emphasized to increase the participation of local vendors in procurement process. Mr. Goyal said it was also decided that local content clause in the procurement should be such that we get more bids from local vendors and suppliers. He said this will give a boost to Atmanirbhar Bharat mission. Government e-marketplace GEM is a highly innovative idea in public procurement across the globe. Mr. Goyal stressed the need to do railway goods and services procurements of approximately 70,000 crores on GEM platform to open up the market to industry even at remote places and especially micro, small and medium enterprises.
In Gujarat, self-finance schools have decided to resume online classes from Monday. The Federation of Self-Finance Schools Gujarat said the decision was taken in an online meeting of the trustees of various self-finance schools yesterday. However, the standoff between the government and the self-finance schools over charging of fees during COVID-19 is yet to be resolved. The self-finance schools in the state had discontinued the online education from Thursday over the fee concerns and had asked the government to withdraw the GR which prevented them from charging fees during the pandemic. In Jammu and Kashmir, Pak Army initiated unprovoked and indiscriminate firing with small arms and heavy mortar shelling along the line of control LOC in Mankot sector of Poonch district in yet another ceasefire violation yesterday. PRO Defence Colonel Davinder Anand has said the alert Indian Army troop guarding the fence retaliated befittingly with equal caliber. The exchange of fire continued till reports last came in. The PRO said there are no reports of damage to any property and loss on any life from the Indian side yet. More details are awaited.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Nation pays tribute to war heroes on Kargil Vijay Divas today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to share his thoughts in Mann Ki Baat program at 11 this morning. Centre allocates additional 40,000 crore rupees under MGNREGA in view of COVID-19 pandemic. India announces $400 million currency swap for Sri Lanka. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says South China Sea is not Beijing's maritime empire, and Haryana to host 4th Khelo India Youth Games. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
The 26th of July, 1999. The Army saga of valor leaves a lasting imprint on the sands of time. Vijay Parva salutes the gallantry, commitment, fortitude and indomitable spirit of our brave hearts. On the unscalable heights of Kargil, an exemplary edict was inscribed in blood. Never again, maybe, for the sake of the motherland, the chance to make the supreme sacrifice. The enemy will be given a befitting reply. Each time, every time, come rain, storm, fire or ice. Vijay Divas. On the 26th of July, a grateful nation salutes her brave soldiers.
Welcome back. In view of the situation arising out of COVID-19 pandemic, an additional allocation of 40,000 crore rupees has also been made for the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme during this financial year. Union Minister for Rural Development and Panchayati Raj Narendra Singh Tomar has called upon the states to ensure that funds being routed to Gram Panchayats are effectively used for development works at the village level. Mr. Tomar said this while inaugurating a function through video conference on strengthening of risk-based internal audit of rural development programs. He emphasized that the focus of the government is on ensuring high level of transparency in the implementation of rural development programs. Mr. Tomar said his ministry has developed a multi-pronged strategy for expanding livelihood opportunities through wage and self-employment, providing rural housing, roads infrastructure, and providing social safety net. The ministry said a provision of about 1,20,000 crore rupees has been made in the budget estimates for the financial year 2020-21. On this occasion, Mr. Tomar released the Financial Management Index for rural development programs to rank the performance of the states. The states will be ranked on the basis of preparation of annual plan, projecting the requirement of funds for the financial year, expeditious release of state share, timely utilization of the funds, and submission of the utilization certificates. India has registered a record number of single-day COVID-19 tests on the second consecutive day. Health Ministry said in the last 24 hours, 4,42,031 samples were tested. For the first time, government labs set a new record of testing 3,62,153 samples. Private labs also scaled a new high of 79,878 samples tested in a single day. The Union government has advised all states to keep up with the strategy of aggressive testing, tracking and treatment, which may initially lead to a high number of daily positive cases but would eventually achieve a decline, as has been demonstrated after the Union government's efforts in Delhi. Bihar government has decided to provide full salary to families of all government servants in case of their death in the fight against corona. The decision was taken at a cabinet meeting chaired by Chief Minister Nitish Kumar. The full salary will be given to the concerned families till date of retirement of the deceased employees, and after that, family pension will be given as per government norms. The government has also taken a decision to provide government jobs to a family member of corona warriors, but they can opt either for full salary of the deceased employees or a government job to the family members. Meanwhile, Bihar recorded its highest single-day corona case of 2,803, taking the total count to 36,314. 24,520 patients have recovered and have been discharged from hospitals, while 11,561 are undergoing treatment. The recovery rate in Bihar is 68%. 232 people have died due to corona. The centre has asked Bihar to ramp up testing with special focus on containment zones. The Union Health Ministry stressed on the need for prompt and proper delineation of containment zones, intensive contact tracing and house-to-house survey within containment zones to find out positive cases.
Madhya Pradesh government will employ a female family member of Anganwadi workers or assistants who succumbed to COVID-19 after contracting the infection on duty. Women and Child Development Minister Imarti Devi presented a compassionate appointment letter as an Anganwadi worker to Preeti Verma, daughter of the late Hemlata Verma, an Anganwadi worker, yesterday in Gwalior. This is probably the first case in the country where a woman member of her family has been given a compassionate appointment in the event of death of an Anganwadi worker in a national or state-level disaster. A report.
According to the official release, if an Anganwadi worker or assistant is on duty under the National or State Disaster Management Act and contracts the infection and dies of it, then her female family member will be appointed to the same post. However, kin of deceased Anganwadi worker must fulfill prescribed qualifications to be directly appointed. Meanwhile, the number of COVID-19 cases climbed up to 26,926 after the 760 new cases reported in the last 24 hours. 622 coronavirus patients were discharged from the hospitals yesterday, taking the number of recovered cases to 18,488. Sanjeev Sharma, AIR News, Bhopal.
Uttar Pradesh government is taking all steps to contain COVID-19 infection in the state. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has said that the testing facility be continuously increased at every level. He stressed the need to increase the number of rapid antigen tests to 1 lakh tests per day. More from our correspondent.
Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has instructed to increase the number of RT-PCR and rapid antigen tests to 1 lakh daily. He directed the official to review the situation of health services in Kanpur, Jhansi, Prayagraj and Mirzapur divisions. 55-hour-long weekly restrictions, which started Friday evening, are still continuing with strict compliance and will be over tomorrow morning. During Saturday and Sunday, weekly closure, sanitization and cleanliness drive carries out at marketplaces. The total number of COVID-19 cases has reached 63,742. There are 22,452 active cases, and as of now, 39,903 patients have been cured and discharged, but 1,387 have been succumbed. MS Yadav, AIR News, Lucknow.
In Gujarat, the total number of COVID-19 cases reached 54,712, with 1,081 fresh cases reported yesterday. The state reported 782 discharges yesterday. So far, more than 39,500 patients have been recovered from COVID-19 in the state. Our correspondent reports the situation in Surat remains alarming.
A total of 181 cases were reported from Surat city alone. Yesterday, it added 276 fresh cases, taking the count to 11,969. Looking at the worsening situation, Surat Municipal Corporation has warned people of legal action for violating home quarantine norms. FIR will be registered against those caught venturing out. Meanwhile, state transport as well as private luxury bus service will be suspended in Surat for 10 days from Monday. The number of cases in Vadodara crossed 4,000 mark yesterday. Ahmedabad added 180 new cases. Over 13,900 samples were tested in the last 24 hours. The State Health Department said state is conducting 214 tests per day per million population. Aparna Khun, AIR News, Ahmedabad.
In Karnataka, 5,072 new COVID-19 positive cases were reported yesterday, taking the total to 90,942 in the state. 2,403 people were discharged from various hospitals and 55,388 active cases are under treatment. 72 people succumbed to the disease yesterday. The recovery rate of the state is 37.1% and the mortality rate is 1.97%. More from our correspondent.
The Karnataka government announced waiver of crematorium fees in Bengaluru for COVID-related deaths. Revenue Minister R. Ashoka told media yesterday that the family of COVID-19 victims need not pay any fees at the city's 12 electric crematorium. He also announced an incentive of Rs 500 per body for the personnel who performed the last weeks. He also said that scientifically there is evidence that the virus cannot survive beyond 3 hours in the COVID dead bodies. He appealed to the people not to protest for the burial of COVID-19 dead bodies. The minister also said that government has identified 23 acres of land across the Bengaluru city to cremate COVID patients and non-COVID too. R. Murthy, AIR News, Bengaluru.
The Manodarpan scheme of the Union Human Resources Development Ministry is providing active psycho-social support to school and college students for overcoming pre, post and ongoing COVID-19 challenges. Dr. Jarita Eljo, Professor of Social Work of the Bharatidasan University, Tiruchirappalli, said that the interactive platforms for chats as well as provisions for posting queries on the website makes Manodarpan an apt platform for the school and college students. Talking to AIR News, she pointed out that good physical as well as mental practices and routines are absolutely necessary for surviving the COVID-19 pandemic. The 5th phase of the Vande Bharat mission will begin from 1st of next month to rescue Indians stranded abroad. It will continue till 31st of August this year. Civil Aviation Minister Hardeep Singh Puri said the detailed schedule of the mission will be shared soon. He said evacuation and outbound travel of every stranded Indian is a priority and no one will be left behind. The minister said over 8,14,000 people have returned since 6th May this year through various means under the Vande Bharat mission. The UAE government has announced that all passengers coming to the country will need a negative COVID-19 PCR test report. This applies to Emiratis, residents and tourists as well as passengers transiting through airports in the UAE, according to a joint statement by the National Crisis and Emergency Management Authority and the UAE Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. Children under the age of 12 and those with severe and moderate disabilities will be exempted from the test requirement, which should have 96 hours of validity from the date of testing. The test should be done from an accredited lab.
Participating in AIR live phone-in program on COVID-19, Dr. Nand Kumar, Professor, Department of Psychiatry at All India Institute of Medical Sciences, stressed the need to boost your immunity to stay safe from corona.
इमोशनल इम्यूनिटी को बढ़ाने के लिए या रेजिलियंस पैदा करने के लिए दो तीन चीजें बहुत जरूरी है। जैसे फिजिकल इम्यूनिटी के लिए आयुष का क्वाथा पीते हैं, हल्दी, दूध। इमोशनल इम्यूनिटी के लिए पहला ये कि लोगों से बात करें, सोशल कनेक्टेडनेस को बनाए रखें। दूसरा, अगर हो सके तो प्राणायाम करें, सांस की एक्सरसाइज करें, हम लोग जो बोलते हैं ब्रीथिंग एक्सरसाइज, वो करें। इससे भी इम्यूनिटी बढ़ती है, इससे मन स्थिर होता है। तीसरा, जितना भी आप फिजिकल एक्टिविटी बढ़ाएंगे अपने घर के अंदर, जैसे घर के अंदर बहुत सारे काम होते हैं, लोग मास्क पहन के थोड़ा बाहर भी घूमने जाते हैं, थोड़ा सा वॉक कर लें, बाहर निकल लें, एक फिजिकल डिस्टेंस को मेंटेन करते हुए लोगों से बात कर लें। इन सारी चीजों से इमोशनल इम्यूनिटी बढ़ती है।
In our series Experts Speak on All India Radio, we bring you the views of the leading medical experts on COVID-19. Dr. Anant Mohan, Head of Pulmonary Medicine, AIIMS, has advised people to not take medicines like hydroxychloroquine or anti-malarial drugs without a prescription by a doctor.
Please do not take medicines such as azithromycin, other antibiotics, antivirals or hydroxychloroquine or other anti-malarials without a proper prescription by a doctor. Do not self-medicate.
Reserve Bank of India has signed necessary documents for extending a $400 million currency swap facility with the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. This currency swap arrangement will remain available till November 2022. The agreement followed talks between the two sides over past weeks to find ways of enhancing economic cooperation between the two neighbors. The Indian High Commission in Colombo has remained closely engaged in fruitful bilateral cooperation with Sri Lanka on all matters of mutual interest. Both countries held technical discussions on rescheduling of bilateral debt repayment by Sri Lanka this week. Both sides had discussed the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and its likely health and economic impacts during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's telephone conversations with Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa on 23rd of May and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa on 27th of May. Prime Minister Modi had assured that India would continue to provide all possible support to Sri Lanka for mitigating the effects of the pandemic. Sri Lanka has around $1 billion loan commitment from India and is requested to reschedule the payment due to the ongoing financial crisis and COVID situation. In flood-hit Assam, disaster response teams have evacuated over 80,000 people to safer places. Participating in an AIR News talk show, State Project Coordinator of State Disaster Management Authority Pankaj Chakravarti and Program Officer Kripal Jyoti Majumdar said that relief camps are being operated maintaining COVID-19 guidelines. They said that 140 relief camps have child-friendly space in relief camps. Mr. Chakravarti said that online classes are also being done by the Education Department for those students staying at relief camps. Meanwhile, the flood situation is slightly improved in the state. Over 26 lakh people are still affected due to floods during the last 24 hours. The death toll has gone up to 97.
State Minister for Disaster Management and Relief of Bangladesh, Dr. Muhammad Inamur Rahman, has said that 31 districts have been affected by floods. He was speaking at an online press conference in Dhaka yesterday. Bangladesh continued to face the fury of floods, with situation worsening in Brahmaputra and Ganges basins in the country. Rivers are flowing above danger level. Meanwhile, the government has set up 6 committees to monitor flood relief in the country over the next 3 weeks. The government has also set up an emergency call number to deliver emergency relief to the flood-affected people.
In a fresh salvo at China, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has said that the South China Sea is not Beijing's maritime empire. He said the United States policy is crystal clear that South China Sea dispute must be resolved through international law. Mr. Pompeo said if Beijing violates international law and free nations do nothing, history shows that Chinese Communist Party will simply take more territory. Mr. Pompeo's statement comes after Australia backed United States, saying Beijing's territorial claims in the South China Sea are illegal. In a letter to the United Nations, Australia's permanent mission rejected Chinese Communist Party's claim to disputed islands, calling them inconsistent with international law. Australian government said any claims by China are inconsistent with the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. It said maritime claims by Chinese Communist Party do not adhere to the UN rules on baselines, maritime zones and classification of features. U.S. federal agents and law enforcement officers have entered Chinese consulate compound in Houston along with locksmiths after the mission was shut down. Trump administration had ordered the closure of the Chinese consulate in Houston over concerns about economic espionage. Chinese flag and the seal were taken down from outside the consulate after it was shut down. In Beijing, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said it had expressed strong dissatisfaction and opposition to the U.S. law enforcement officers' forced entry into the consulate and lodged a diplomatic protest. A UN report says 6,500 Pakistani terrorists are present in Afghanistan that pose a serious threat to the war-torn country's security. The report from UN Security Council's Analytical Support and Sanctions Monitoring Team said that Pakistani terrorists formed a significant part of the foreign fighters in Afghanistan. The UN report said Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan TTP, Jaish-e-Mohammed JEM and Lashkar-e-Taiba LET are present in the eastern Afghan provinces of Kunar, Nangarhar and Nuristan. It said Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba play a key role in bringing foreign terrorists into the war-torn country. Haryana will host the 4th Khelo India Youth Games. Sports Minister Kiren Rijiju and Haryana Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar announced this through video conferencing. Khelo India Youth Games is scheduled to take place after Tokyo Olympics next year. The games will be held at Panchkula in Haryana. Mr. Rijiju said, usually the Khelo India Youth Games takes place in January every year. He said, however, this time, owing to the pandemic, we have to postpone it.
Now, let us take a look at today's weather forecast. The national capital Delhi may experience generally cloudy sky with light rain. The minimum temperature was recorded 26 degrees Celsius. The maximum is expected to be around 36 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will have a generally cloudy sky with moderate rain. The city witnessed a minimum temperature of 26 degrees Celsius, will have a maximum of around 31 degrees. In Chennai, the temperature will hover between 28 and 36 degrees Celsius. The city will witness generally cloudy sky. Kolkata will have a partly cloudy sky with the possibility of moderate rain or thunderstorm. The city recorded a minimum temperature of 27 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be nearly 35 degrees Celsius. In Jammu and Kashmir, the minimum temperature was 24 degrees Celsius in Jammu, while maximum will be around 34 degrees. The city is likely to have a partly cloudy sky with possibility of rain or thunderstorm or dust storm. In Srinagar, the temperature will hover between 20 and 32 degrees Celsius. The city is expected to witness mainly clear sky becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. Leh Ladakh will also have mainly clear sky becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. The temperature will hover between 16 and 28 degrees Celsius. In Gilgit, the minimum temperature was recorded 17 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be around 34 degrees Celsius. It is expected to have mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. Muzaffarabad may witness partly cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. The place witnessed a minimum temperature of 20 degrees Celsius, while the maximum temperature will be around 35 degrees Celsius. Generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers is expected in Itanagar. Minimum temperature was 25 degrees Celsius. Maximum will be 34 degrees Celsius. Guwahati is also expected to have a generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. And now an overview of today's newspapers. Hindustan Times headlines. This engagement is complex. Our aim is status quo ante. Army is working to restore LAC position, writes The Hindu, quoting the General Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Northern Command. 4.2 lakh samples tested in a day. Cases cross 13 lakh, writes The Tribune. The Times of India reports, high percentage of false negative seed suspicions about rapid antigen tests. Changing its earlier stand, the J&K administration has told the Home Ministry that it does not have any objection to restoring 4G services, reports the Indian Express. The Hindu reports, UN report flags IS threat in Karnataka, Kerala. Significant number of terrorists are present in these states, according to the report, adds the paper. And finally, a 69-year-old actor has challenged the Maharashtra government's rule prohibiting those over 65 from shooting due to the pandemic, reports the Indian Express. The paper adds, due to these curbs, older characters are either being erased or replaced with younger ones in the storyline to follow this rule.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Nation pays tributes to war heroes on Kargil Vijay Divas today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to share his thoughts in Mann Ki Baat program at 11 this morning. Centre allocates additional 40,000 crore rupees under MG Narega in view of the COVID-19 pandemic. India announces $400 million currency swap for Sri Lanka. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says South China Sea is not Beijing's maritime empire. And Haryana to host the 4th Khelo India Youth Games. That's all we have in this edition of Morning News. Have a nice day.